I'm Katie. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Katie.
And I've been through the process with a Big Book Step Study sponsor, actually several meetings like this. I'm still making my amends and practicing the latter steps to the best of my willingness every day. Oh, I sat out there for a really long time, and I never thought I'd be up here, so I'm just having a moment. I used to be the coffee maker at this meeting, I want to say like 9 years ago, maybe 8. So it took me a while to write. So my experience, was I got sober when I was 21. It was 6 months after my 21st birthday, so obviously I had a lot of underage drinking. And when I came here and I saw the steps, and I looked at step 1, and I really didn't want to admit that I had a problem with alcohol because I didn't want alcohol to be the problem. I wanted to still be able to drink and just not have all the chaos in my life. Like if I just didn't get in trouble, if I just didn't have that guilt, shame, and remorse when I woke up not knowing what happened the night before, but I could still drink, that would be great. And I was in college and everyone was drinking like that around me, I thought. I was a little bit more than my friends, but I just thought I could control it. So, before I got to step 3, I really had to look at step 1, and for me, it was going through this book with a sponsor and looking at the reading, and I couldn't believe that I identified with a man, that wrote this book so many years ago, and I was like, how am I still identifying with him, and I'm a 21-year-old female? But I could identify with the feelings and that pain and trying to control it and not being able to. And I saw the word God, and I just thought that I just resisted it at first. I thought that you were going to make me believe a certain religion or tell me how I had to do things. So it really helped me when it said, God of your understanding. And I never really noticed before, but it's italicized in step 3, which to me always means it's really important. Anything that's italicized, I'm like, okay, Bill really wanted me to look closer at this. So, step 2 for me was coming to believe, and I really struggled with this part. I went to meetings for a while and just believed that you believed in something, and at some point, maybe it would rub off on me, but I didn't start praying right away. I went to a 7 a.m. meeting every day that really helped me, and people talked about God a lot, and a few people talked about getting on their knees every morning, and I was like, I'm not doing that. And then I was like, why don't I just try it? Because I really struggled with the obsession in the beginning, especially weekends. Like, it was hard. And they talked about not obsessing over alcohol anymore, and I was like, whoa, how does that happen? I've shared this story before, some people have heard it, but my first spiritual experience, I was at Howe Park in Spencer, which is where I used to go to smoke weed all the time, and I was sitting in my car, and I had called my first sponsor, who I didn't know was my first sponsor. I just called her, but she was, and I told her that I was having a tough time, and there were a couple people that were going in the woods, and they were about to go smoke, and I could tell that's what they were doing, so I easily could have been like, hey, can I join you? But instead, I told her what was going on, and I was honest, and she told me to pray, and I was like, I don't know how. I grew up going to Catholic school, and I knew how to pray. I could say the rosary. I knew all that, but it didn't come from my heart, and I really struggled because I'm gay, and I thought that God didn't love me because I was gay. I just had all this negative beliefs growing up, and I hadn't told my sponsor yet. So I told her that I was gay, and she was like, so? It says in the Big Book, a higher power of your understanding, and does your higher power accept you the way that you are? And I was like, mind blown moment of well, I guess so. Like, I guess I can throw that idea out the window. And then it was like, so now what? Like, what does my higher power look like? And I was told that I don't have to know, that I just have to believe that there's something greater than me that can help me. And that was like such a relief. And I didn't have a white light moment, but I just had this like feeling of, I'm gonna be okay. And someone was telling me that, and she didn't like to use the word God, and it didn't bother me, but it was just helpful for me to have someone in my life that was in AA and was okay with just saying higher power or used other terms, that it didn't have to be the word God. And side note, she told me she was bi, and then that got me all confused because then I got a crush on my sponsor. But, so I looked really good to go read the big book. We'd meet at a coffee shop, and I'd be like, so we're friends now, it's fine. But at least sobriety, that's a little confusing. So for me, like before I could get to step 3, I had to believe. And you know, step 3 is an action step, and I had to make a decision. And I was really scared. I was like, what's going to happen? Am I going to make this decision and then like everything's going to change? You know, I went through the reading with my sponsor first, and I highlighted and underlined things, and I could really identify with the actor, and I could see, and I reread these pages a lot because it's really helpful for me when I'm stuck in self-will and I'm trying to run the show, and I can just see where all these areas of my life where I was trying to run the show. I was that actor. I was trying to be like, if I just have this, it's going to work out. And then it wouldn't work out. And then I would get resentful, and I'd be upset of why isn't this working out the way that I planned it, the way that I want it to be. And I have a little note here that said, basically everyone ends up pissed at you. So that's pretty much what happened when I was on self-will, is I didn't think of anyone else. I was just self-centered. What are my needs? What do I need to accomplish? What can I get from you? You know, I wasn't thinking of how I can be useful. How can I show up? How can I just ask you, you know, how can I, you know, be helpful? What do you need? Any of that stuff. So I go back to this a lot. So when I read through this with my sponsor, she went through, I've done this multiple times with multiple sponsors, side note. So I've done a formal step 3 4 times. And I restarted my writing multiple times, which is why it took me 9 years. And, you know, each time I got something else out of it. You know, it was a different experience in a different location. I always thought that it had to be like in a church or, you know, it's wherever. I feel God is everywhere. So one time I did it at a Starbucks and a Target in the middle of that was really uncomfortable. I did it. I was like, okay. You know, we got down on our hands and knees and we said the 3rd step prayer. But before we did that, you know, she went through the 3 pertinent ideas and asked, you know, do you believe you're an alcoholic and you cannot manage your own life? And I was like, yes, I am definitely an alcoholic. And that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. I was like, yes. And then I made a note, not even my sponsor, right? Because sometimes I rely on people and I can put people on this pedestal of like, just pick up your phone, like you're going to save me. And it's like, there's going to be times where people aren't going to answer their phone. And I need to be able to go to God with it and just trust and rely and know that I'm okay, even if my sponsor's not available or my friend's not available. And that God could and would if he were sought. And that really started my journey of like, all right, I'm going to make this decision. I'm going to turn it over. And it's scary because it's like, I don't know what it's going to look like. And it might be bumpy and it might be a roller coaster. And that's been my experience is, you know, I've had things that have happened in my life that weren't what I planned. You know, and I've had a lot of just life stuff happen. But one thing that's helped me get through all of it is to just pause. I say the 3rd step prayer all the time. And it's not just like big things. One of my sponsors said something that's always helped me, which is to just pause and invite God into the door before me, and that God's in that room and in that space. And that has always helped me to just know that whatever it is, I can turn it over, and I just have to show up, right? I can't just expect God to like do it all, and I just sit on the couch and do nothing, right? But if I show up and I turn it over, my higher power is working in ways that I can't even fathom. And he's doing things for me that I can't do for myself. So it's usually so much better when I get out of the way. So I think the last thing I wanted to say was the third step promises. And they really helped me because, one, I wrote for so long. So I actually started to feel these third step promises after I did my third step and while I was doing my writing. It wasn't like the ninth step promises, that have come true as I'm making my amends. I was feeling this, to know that I had a new employer. And he provided what I needed if I kept close to him and performed his work well. So even as I was doing my writing, I could feel that presence and I could go to it, and I knew that he was going to provide for me and take care of me. And more we became interested in seeing what we could contribute to life. Like I was able to, and I, show up for my family today. If I say I'm going to be somewhere, I show up. Like all those little things, that's just like behaviors, that even when I'm sober, I can still be a jerk. I can still, not be the greatest friend. I can still get selfish and in my own head. So, when I pause and I'm actually working this and turning my life and my will over to God, I actually feel these things and I have that peace of mind and the fear goes away. And that's my biggest thing is the main reason when I try to run the show, it's because I'm in fear, right? I'm afraid of what you're going to think of me or what's going to happen if I let it go. And when I pause and I pray and I say the third step prayer, it's honestly like a huge weight off my shoulders because trying to play God is a lot of work and it's a lot of pressure, so it's nice to just be like, you got it. And it's easier said than done, and there's some bigger things that are harder to really let go of. But my experience has been when I do that, it's turned out great. So I'm very grateful to be here, and I'm excited to hear what you have to share. And if you're writing, keep writing. It does end. Okay, people used to say that, and I'm like, nope, you're lying to me. But I wrote for a really long time, and it ends, but then you have to do your 10, 11, and 12. So it always keeps going. So I'll be honest with you about that. But I'm very grateful to be here. Thanks.